Hello, my name is Jonathan, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Andrew, for asking me to speak here tonight. Let's see, my sobriety date is 2/25/14, and my home group is Keeping It Sober group in Aberdeen. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with that. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor, and supposed to tell you in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And let's see, I grew up right here in Southern Pines on Midland Road. Mom and Dad were separated as far back as I can remember. Grew up living with my grandparents on my mom's side, and grew up in a house on Midland Road. My early childhood memories are really good. Spending a lot of time with my grandmother, watching Carolina basketball together all the time. Going down to the lake, feeding the ducks, things like that with my grandfather. Definitely, it was definitely a lot of love in the family with them. Let's see, I don't remember at that time, really remember my mom being around much or my dad. And, as I grew up in school, early on I made good grades, not really many problems, getting certificates in school for doing well. And I had a neighbor that lived beside us growing up, and they were like my best friend. We always played together, and had several friends in the neighborhood. And as I got older, I was up a couple houses up the road from my grandparents playing with one of my friends after school, I think. And I don't really remember much of my dad, but he came pulling up in my friend's driveway, and I knew it was him. And for whatever reason, I took off running toward my grandparents' house, and he chased me down and picked me up and carried me back to the truck and off to his house. Off to his house we went, and he had, I really don't know what was going on with my mom at that time. She just wasn't around much, but my dad had gotten into another relationship with another woman, which became my stepmom. That lady had a sister that was my same age, and my dad ended up taking my mom to court and winning custody over me. So I've gone from, living with my grandparents, which I'm real familiar with, to living with my dad, a whole new family, it felt like. I resented, I'm pretty sure that's one of my first resentments, toward my dad, that I carried with me for a long time, because I felt like, he kidnapped me, is how I looked at it for, many years. Now, today, after being able to work through the steps and get some guidance on it, I know that all he wanted was the best for me. And that's what he tried to provide for me throughout, the rest of up until now. I mean, he's always wanted the best for me. But, so I'm living in this new living arrangements, and, it's just not comfortable. Seems like, my stepmom's always trying to tell me what to do. Seems like I'm always getting in trouble. Regardless of what the situation is, it seems like my dad always wants to take, her side, and never wants to really listen to my side. Just grew up in that household, just not feeling comfortable. However, it was not probably as bad as it seemed, I thought it was. We always went on family vacations, we've gone to the Bahamas before, always taking trips to the beach, all over the place really. So, growing up, I definitely feel like I had, a good childhood. Just no matter what was going on, I just never really felt, comfortable. With my surroundings or just other people in general. After, living with my grandparents, I was the only child, grandson to them, but, I got all the attention, and now that I'm living with, another sibling, stepsister that's the same age, like I'm fighting for that attention and it just don't seem like I'm getting it, like I've been used to. So I start acting out in school. My grades go down, or start going down. I'm doing anything that I can do to get some attention, whether it's act up in class, be disrespectful to the teachers, turn into class clown. Definitely wasn't getting any more certificates in school for doing a good job. And let's see. So my dad got custody of me, and I'm going over to my mom's every other weekend for a visit, to visit with her. And my mom at this time is, all I know on my mom's side is that, I've had a stepdad. She's been married to the same man as far back as I can remember. And, so like it was two different households for me. Like on my dad's side, things were fairly strict. There was disciplines when I got in trouble, and so on and so forth. On my mom's side, it was like anything goes. Never got in trouble. Anytime would get in trouble, and she would know about it. She'd always say it'd be okay. Don't worry about it. It's all right. There was no discipline. If I was grounded at my dad's, I'd go to my mom's, and none of that applied. And I don't remember there being a whole lot of drinking at my dad's house. I'm sure there was some, but it just doesn't stand out to me. However, on my mom's side, there was drinking and use of other activities, on a regular basis. And let's see, so, growing up, being around that over my mom's house, I'm seeing the activities that are going on over there. Anyway, so like I pick up on the things that are going on, and is what I find out is, drugs are a huge part of my story. I'm gonna try to keep it to the alcohol, but I feel, like the drugs got me in Alcoholics Anonymous just a little quicker. But being said that, there was some, those activities were going on over there, and, really I just picked up on, these illegal substances were being sold and stuff, and like that's what I picked up on. And as I got a little older, I started stealing those things from my mother's house, and I would go to school and share with my friends, and next thing you know, like they were giving me money, and so like long story short is what that did for me was gave me that attention that I've been striving for. Going to high school, continued to be, class clown, didn't care about grades, did bare minimum, never really, like going to college or anything, never appealed to me. I don't really remember exact age or time or anything when I took my first drink, but it was definitely in my high school years, and what happened is, we would get together, whoever's parents were out of town, and we'd get together and get some alcohol, and we'd, have some drinks. And this is what I know is, looking back, like every time I did drink, it was always blacking out, throwing up, getting sick, all those things. And I know that that after going through the book, like I can see, like, and relate to the fact that, like, I strictly drank just for the effect produced by alcohol, never for the taste. Continued doing that throughout high school. No bad consequences too much from drinking during high school yet, but I'm in 10th grade or 11th grade, and I'm going on a carpentry competition for school, and me and a couple other guys go, and there's several other people from other schools staying at the hotel, and me and some of the guys I went with decided that it would be a good idea to take some of those outside substances and partake in those at nighttime in the hotel room. And of course, the things we were doing was smelled by other teachers in the hotel, and long story short, got disqualified from the competition. Parents had to come pick us up from out of town, and that was probably one of my first consequences with any substances. So this is what that caused for me, was not to be able to graduate high school on time. Had to go to summer school, and I don't know how big a deal it was for me not being able to walk, but it was definitely a little bit of a deal for me. Went to summer school, and of course they got your little summer school graduation where you can walk across and pick up your diploma and stuff, but I didn't do that. I just got my diploma and took it home. So as I get older, I'm continuing to drink and use other substances, and after high school, the use of alcohol and those other things just continued to progress over the years. And, I would see, as I got older, I was able to, I've always been in carpentry. My dad was a carpenter, and, I kind of just followed in his footsteps, and, like carpentry work's just come natural to me. So I was able to maintain the same job for several years, 10 or so, probably, a little more maybe. But also looking back, like, I'm able to see that, like, I feel like this boss that I worked for was like a huge enabler. Like, I got away with murder, not coming into work, laying out weeks at a time, doing more or less, what I wanted. Anytime I needed to borrow money, he would let me. So definitely I feel like, maybe like if that guy wasn't the way he was and I had gotten fired from that job sooner, maybe things would have worked out and I would have got into Alcoholics Anonymous a little faster, but, that wasn't quite the case for me. So as the years go by, like I'm accumulating some, a DUI, getting in trouble with the law off and on. And as I picked up younger, selling those illegal substances, like I said, I did that my whole life. And, is what ended up happening was, I ended up getting called by the police for doing that. And it was some pretty serious charges. And did a little bit of prison time throughout that ordeal. And, by being locked up through that, that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life, probably, for sure. I thought I was pretty serious and that I would never use those other substances or do the things that I was doing anymore. But, that wasn't the case. I got out, and for a period of time, I didn't do anything, no drinking or using other substances, but as time went on, I found myself slowly but surely falling right back into doing the things that I always did. And the use and the drinking it just progressed and progressed and progressed. And, eventually I found myself seeking some outside treatment at a treatment center in town. And, my first time I went to that place, like I walked in and, I really didn't think that, I thought I was better than the people that were going there. And, I didn't go, I quit going. But several years later, I found myself desperate to go there again. And, for a little while, it seemed to work and help me for sure. I definitely wasn't as bad off, I thought, as before. But, so I went there for 2.5 years. And, the time of going there, is what happened is like I wasn't spending my money on certain things, but I was started spending them on other things. And, they allowed those things to go on, me failing, urine test and everything else, and still allowed me to come. So, at the end of the day, it really wasn't too much help for me. But is what happened was I reached a point to where like I was jobless, hadn't paid rent, no telling how long. It was just a matter of time before I was going to get kicked out of the place I was living in, and I couldn't even afford to put gas in the truck to go to work. So I called the counselor that was at the treatment center and asked her like what was my options. I needed to do something. I didn't know what I needed to do, but I needed to do something different. And she recommended that I could try going to a treatment center. And, so I went in and met with her. She listed a couple treatment centers, and I found, I picked one. And, the first place she mentioned was Samaritan Colony, but, it was in Rockingham. I didn't really know too much about Rockingham, and we went on and I chose somewhere else. And, I went, to the treatment center, and I remember my dad giving me a ride, and I went up there with the intentions of knowing that I just needed to get that stuff out of my system and know that I couldn't drink or use those substances, anymore, and I'd be all right. And so I went up to the treatment center, and, I stayed for the completion of it, 20-something days, 1 days, I think it was. And, they had mentioned something about going to Oxford House or something, and like that I had no interest at all in that. Didn't really know what I was doing when I got out, but I was pretty certain I wasn't going to one of those places. And, so about halfway through, I was able to contact a friend, and he let me come stay at his house, which none of that worked out too good. But while I was at the treatment center, they had some AA meetings that came in and some meetings from the other fellowship as well. And I remember them reading the steps and traditions and stuff, and, really none of it meant nothing to me. Filled out my paperwork that they sent out in class, the classwork, and copied other people's paper just to be able to turn it in and get my completion. And got out of the treatment center, got my little certificate of completion, and went on my merry way. And, for a couple of weeks or so, everything was pretty good. I was pretty amazed to the fact that, like, I could wake up in the morning and not have to have something to get me out of bed or to get me through the day, and I didn't have to have anything to go to sleep and be able to sleep the night through. Those were things that I hadn't experienced in a long time, and so a couple of weeks went by, and the thought of having a couple drinks, it never crossed my mind for a minute that that would be a problem. Went to the liquor store and got a little bottle of liquor, and was right back to drinking the way I was originally, straight into a blackout, and continued to do that every time I could get my hands on some money for a couple weeks. And eventually, the guy I was staying with started telling me how I was being disrespectful when I was drinking, and being loud and waking up the baby and all the above. Those were all things that I wasn't remembering, and thought that, he was just making up trying to get me out of the house. But, I know, that's called blackout. Anyway, what happens is I continue to drink, and it's a short period of time before, I think, I'm at the liquor store in the parking lot having a couple of drinks before I pull off, like I always did, driving up and down the roads under the influence with no regard to anybody on the road. Before I pull off, that thought pops in my mind that, some of those other substances is just what I need to go with it. And without a second thought, I was off to do those things. And long story short, the drinking progressed, and using those other substances progressed as well. And it was a short period of time before I was using them in ways that, I never thought I would. And, so is what I do is I try to, I'm thinking well, maybe I need to get into one of those houses. That's probably what I need to do. So I called the Bethesda house. They let me in, and for some reason they just let me in. So anyway, so I'm staying at the Bethesda house. And the problem is, like, I've already started getting high and drinking, so, like, everything's pretty all right for, the first 2 weeks while I'm there because I'm not working, I don't have any money in my pocket. And, don't really, hell, I'm too embarrassed to call anybody that I already know that I probably can go to work with because of my circumstances. I was just not ready to accept who I was and where I was living and, that. But, so several weeks went by, I'm staying, we'll just say dry. But so I ended up picking up some work, and immediately as soon as, the guy I started working with, they pay on a daily basis. And first day I got paid, I got my phone turned on. Second day I got paid, that thought popped in my mind that, once it popped in my mind, I acted on it and, I started using those substances at the halfway house. Short period of time, I got kicked out for a felony urine test. And I had talked to the guy that I had been working with. He had a house that had a room available in it for me to stay in. And, so I moved in there and I continued to work for that guy. And things continued to just go downhill really quick. It came up, really it was just like the previous places that I've stayed. I wasn't paying any rent and knew it was a matter of time before, I got kicked out and knew somewhere, along the lines, like while I was at the Bethesda house, I was coming to some meetings because, that's what was required. And while I was coming to those few meetings, like I was seeing some people that I knew that, I knew they had done the things that I did and lived the way I lived, and they seemed to not be living that way anymore and seemed to be fairly happy. And it just felt like there was a sense of something here. I didn't really have no idea what it was, but like the time that I was away from it, like I knew something was just telling me, like if I could just, there's something there. If I could just get there, like everything would be all right. And so finally, the guy, what the guy does is he turns the power out on us. And, I'm forced to move to another place or to stay at another place. And, of course, persuade somebody to let me borrow some money. So I think I'm going to get the power turned back on. And, of course, I didn't get the power, use it for the power. I used it for, drinking and those other substances that I'm doing. And so I'm swinging by the house one day to, I'm staying with a friend because the power's out, and I come by the house one day to get some clothes and stuff, and the power's back on. So, so I turn around and go and get my stuff, and I move back on in. And, it's a couple days after that, or I'm not sure how long, but the guy shows up, and, I'm pretty sure he's shocked that I'm there. He can't, he just can't believe that I've got the nerve to move back in. And so anyway, he puts it straightforward to me, like he's gonna call the sheriff's department if I don't go and pack my stuff and move. So I knew the day was coming. So, and my plan all along was just like when that happens, like I'm gonna go to detox. And so that's what I did. Was asked to leave, or he was gonna call the sheriff. So I went to detox, and that. For whatever reason, they wouldn't let me into the one in Hamlet, and I went and stayed on a guy's couch for a couple of days. And while I was at the Bethesda house working with that guy, or those guys, like I remember this one guy talking about how he would pick up guys and take them to detox, and didn't really know what all that was about. But like it popped in my mind while I was staying on this guy's couch that, like I ain't have, I really, like he was ready for me to go, and I didn't have anywhere to go, and like that guy's name, popped in my mind, and, so I called him and told him that, I wanted to go to detox, and I'm pretty sure basically, like he dropped what he was doing and came and picked me up. Or actually, he said he was going to pick me up later on that night, and he called right back and was like, I'm on the way. And, I'm grateful for that. And got into detox, scared to death, didn't really, just, scared basically. But while I was there, or before I went, like I had been, while I was coming to the water building, I had met Mark, and, I had asked him to be my sponsor at the time, and, we didn't, do much work right there. But what I found out is that he worked at Samaritan Colony, and I was hearing all these good things about Samaritan Colony. So I had been in contact with him while I was out there, and, he'd tell me the same thing every time, just go to detox and ask for a referral. So while I was there, I asked for a referral to Samaritan Colony, and while I was there, they let me know that there was not a bed available for a couple weeks, and that they were gonna get me a place in, I think it's Oaksboro or something, at Bridge for Recovery. And I knew I didn't have anywhere to go, so I went, stayed there for a couple, I don't know, I want to say a couple weeks, but it might not have even been that long. And, they called up, the guys came from the bridge, came and picked me up at the detox, took me back out there. We stayed out there, went to meetings. It was a pretty nice little place, actually. But eventually they got the phone call that a bed was available. The guys gave me a ride up there to Samaritan Colony. And, I don't know, of course, just really just scared to death, have no idea what I'm doing, what's about to happen. I just know that things aren't going in my favor. And, so is what I know is walking in the door, not knowing anybody, it was just a huge weight lifted off of me walking in there, knowing that them guys have been in the same spot that I've been in, and they got a solution for me. So immediately they get me, or everybody that comes, but they got me, right into doing the step work, and, had no idea what I was doing, still reading the steps and stuff, it meant zero to me. There was no comprehension of what the stuff meant. But is what they taught me was to ask another person for some help, and so that's what I started doing. And I got a temporary sponsor while I was in there, and that guy was able to help me, work through the different steps in the work that they give us. And it got me an opportunity to write out my whole life story and see all the reoccurring events that were going on in my life with alcohol and other substances. And, they break it down and get you really looking at it. And they open it up so you can see what the real problem is, and then they get you right into continuing and, with what the solution is. And, growing up, I didn't go to a whole lot of church, but when I did go, I felt something, the presence of something, and I always believed in God, just always knew there was a God, but I didn't have any kind of relationship ever with him. And but when I would go to church, I would always feel something, goosebumps, or something, they started talking about praying and doing these things, and really didn't really know what I was praying to. So while I was there, I got seemed like a bunch of extra assignments, but one of them was because I was struggling a little bit with the God issue, and they had me write out a God wanted ad, and what I would want my God to be type deal. And so really I did those things, and they asked me to get on my knees and just start praying for some help, to stay sober for the 24 hours. And they got me praying for some people that I strongly dislike, and taught me how to write a gratitude list, and to write down all the things I'm grateful for. And then at nighttime to pray again on my knees and thank God for keeping me sober that day if I stayed sober. And, like I became willing to do those things. And, writing out a 4-step, like I didn't even know, like that was a whole nother ball game for me. Just clueless on really like how to do it. It was easy to write down the parts, the people that I was mad at and resentful at, but like where was I to blame, like that was the hard part for me. But I was able to work through it and do a 5th step, and I feel like, I did as thorough one as I could at the time. And I don't know when it took place, but somewhere in the midst of doing all those steps, that obsession that I had all my life was removed. And, that I always, be grateful for. And, there again, I'm there, I don't know where I'm going afterwards. And, one of the things Mark told me when I came was that I had to be willing to go anywhere they felt fit for me. And, of course, at the time, I was, I probably just said okay just so they'd let me in. But then, it started coming down to it. And they started talking about sending me to Wilmington, to some recovery homes down there. And, I had never lived anywhere else besides here. And seemed like everybody else at treatment was pretty happy for me, but I really wasn't feeling the same way. I just did what I was taught and prayed about it, and, I went on down there. Guys came and picked me up and drove me all the way to Wilmington and dropped me off, and, there I was. So I did what they told me to do. I went to some meetings and got a sponsor, and started working, the steps in Alcoholics Anonymous with that sponsor. But what I noticed was going on was everybody else was going to the other fellowships, so it became a little tough for me to go over here by myself. So I kind of felt that that fellowship, I belong there as well. But so I tried it out, and I really just didn't didn't feel comfortable there. I get what I need for sure in Alcoholics Anonymous. And during the time that I was down there, Samaritan Colony had opened up some recovery homes here in town. And Mark called me, asked me if I felt like I might want to come back to town and stay in one of their rooms or one of their houses. And this is where I'm from and where I did all my drinking and using other substances, and really didn't know how I felt about it. But I again did what I was taught. Talked to several people about it, prayed about it, and ended up making the move up here. And I'm definitely there was a lot of fear behind that, but I'm glad I did. And the thing is, when I got back here and I got back around the guys from the colony and the guys in the house that were, doing AA like I was taught to do AA in Samaritan Colony, it was, it was a big relief. I felt like I was at home, and not just because I was at home, but because I was around the people that I felt comfortable around. Before I moved back up here, I'd already known that, the guy that I wanted to ask to be my sponsor. So I'd already made some phone calls before I moved back to town. And he already, he had me doing a couple things before I made the move. And once I made the move, got to town, the guy was, told me what we were going to do. We was going to meet at 7:30, or we were going to go to the Sunday morning 7:30 meeting, and afterwards we would sit down and do our step work. And we met every Sunday, until we had gone through the steps and the 164 pages. And, I'm truly grateful that, this guy was willing to sit down and take the time and walk me through the steps and help me to, see myself in the print. And, And the thing is, like, I've been able to do that same thing with other guys, and I'm able to see, I'm able to be there for, the guys that come in and they're struggling and, they just don't know what they're doing. I was taught to, talk to the newcomer and, share with them exactly how I felt when I came in and, just share my experience with them. And, so I try to do that. I got involved with, I got a home group and I got involved with service with that home group and go up to the prisons every Wednesday and take a meeting up there, which is, sometimes it's good for me, sometimes it's, hard to go, but I do it even when I don't want to most of the time. And I continue to get up each morning, not every single morning, but more than often than not. I get up and write a gratitude list, pray on my knees for the help to stay sober throughout the day, and I read some spiritual readings and do some step work and call my sponsor. And by doing those things, like I haven't found it necessary to drink for for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and that's something that like I never thought possible. Growing up, like I would see my friends buying houses and buying new cars, and my dad would talk to me about buying some property and building a house, and but it would just make me mad when he would say those things to me, because I didn't understand why he didn't understand, and like that stuff was never going to happen for me. And just not being able to show up for any kind of holidays or anything, Christmas, Easter, I would always, I would start using those substances or drinking, and I didn't know what it was, but that obsession would kick in, and I would do those things, and the craving would kick in, and I would be unable to show up for anything. And, to have that obsession to drink and use other substances removed, it's just amazing to me, and, the thing is that just being able to sit down with another guy and share that with him and read and go through the book with another guy like my sponsor did with me, I'm definitely selfish and self-centered. I don't always want to do it, but I know that I just do it. My sponsor always puts it in front of me that I don't have to want to do these things, I just got to do it. And so I try to do them even when I don't want to, and when I'm having a hard time doing some of those things, I just pray for the willingness, and that works. So I've been able to maintain maintain a very good job for the past year and a half with the same company. That I'm pretty sure they feel pretty confident that I'm gonna show up every day for work. I'm gonna be on time, and I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. If I have some reason that I'm not gonna be able to be at work, I'm able to call in advance or let them know in advance I'm gonna be absent. To be able to start building a relationship with my mom, which has been, real sick for several years. I don't really know how many, probably at least 5 years. Severe stages of emphysema, and before I got sober, I probably hadn't seen her in years at a time. And I'm able to go over there and spend some time with her, and I have a 25-year-old brother that I really just don't even know. So I've been able to start building a relationship with him, which is a little different, but I've been working on it, and it all goes back to all those things. I don't always want to do them, but if I just pray for some willingness to do it, it seems like everything works all right for me. And You know, same thing with my dad. You know, he's been married a couple different times, and I've been able to, you know, like I've been able to accept the lady that she's married with, will go with, the lady he's married to. You know, we have ups and downs, but I'm able to, you know, maintain a pretty decent relationship with them. I'm able to, when I say I'm able to show up to when I say I'm gonna show up, and like that's pretty huge to them and to me. And you know, I know that, you know, it's only through Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm able to do these things. And you know, I appreciate you asking me to speak, Andrew, again, and thank y'all.